Okay, so we got some box office results for this past weekend, and The Flash is bleeding out. They are hemorrhaging money, and Across the Spider-Verse has taken back the #1 spot. So we've got some stuff here from Variety. It says, somewhere across the multiverse, The Flash, once touted by its own studio as one of the greatest superhero movies of all time, would be towering over the box office with ease in its second weekend release. But yeah, as we all know, that didn't happen, and The Flash is doing very poorly at the box office and continues to drop and drop and drop. So I think part of the problem here is that they really overpromised and underdelivered on that. If you say any movie is the best of all time, it should be the best of all time. You've really got to back that up. I think what they should have done in this instance is to say, hey, we've got a great superhero movie here, and to focus on those positives, but to say it's the best ever and then to have audiences see it and be like, yeah, it's good, I think that really hurt the film. So it goes on to say, rather than taking a victory lap, the comic book adventure is cratering in third place behind holdovers Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Pixar's Elemental, just barely landing ahead of Jennifer Lawrence's new R-rated comedy, No Hard Feelings. I've seen 3 of these films. I've seen The Flash, I've seen Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is amazing. It's the best of the bunch. It is definitely worth your money at the box office, and other people seem to think so as well, because it's #1 and it's 4th weekend, which is wild. And Elemental is a great movie. It's great fun for the family. It's not Pixar's best, but it is a good movie. I have a review on it if you want to check that out. The Flash is a really good movie, but I think it ran into a number of problems, which I'll get into in a second. But yeah, I didn't see No Hard Feelings yet. I can't comment on that one. It's the only one of the bunch I haven't seen. I went to go see Wes Anderson's Asteroid City this weekend, and it was one of my favorite movies of the year. Top 3 for me. I think the big story here is how well Across the Spider-Verse has done over the long haul. It's word of mouth. People are saying this is an amazing Spider-Man movie. It's an amazing animated movie. It's just an amazing movie, period, that you should go take your family to. So Variety goes on to say, over the weekend, The Flash added 15.3 million, marking a brutal 73% decline from its unimpressive $55 million debut for their debut weekend. That's a far bigger drop than recent DC adaptations like Black Adam, which was 59%, and Shazam! Fury of the Gods, 69% drop, which ended up as notable money losers for the studio. So I think the overall theme here is that people are a little bit over the DC EU. They're over this whole universe. I don't think Blue Beetle is going to do very well. I'm not sure about Aquaman. The first one made $1 billion, but Aquaman 2, I'm not sure how it's going to fare. It's got the Jason Momoa thing going for it, so that's solid. But other than that, I think people just are in a place where they're not caring as much about that because they know that it's getting rebooted. So do these characters that are already there, do these movies even matter? Why should we go see these films? I think that's one of the issues. I think multiverse fatigue is kind of starting to happen. That point goes counter to the fact that Across the Spider-Verse, it is a multiverse movie and it's doing really well. But I think the thing that separates that is that it has a clear idea of where it's going. It's a trilogy, it's 3 movies, and it is focused. Whereas the big studios, both Marvel and DC currently, just don't seem to have a clue where their stories are going. I think with those issues, plus the Ezra Miller problem. So Ezra Miller had a lot of issues, and I won't get into all those, but give it a googs and you can see for yourself why people are just fed up and maybe boycotted this movie as a result of Ezra Miller. It goes on to say about The Flash, it's a catastrophic result for the $200 million budgeted tentpole because it signals that ticket sales won't rebound for its theatrical run. So far, the worldwide total is $210.9 million for The Flash. So why is it a bomb? Its budget was $200 million. It made $210 million. How is that a bomb? Well, that's not factoring in advertising costs, which that plus the theater taking their cut, all of that, you really roughly need to make double what your budget is. So if your budget's $200 million, you need to make $400 million to roughly just break even on that. And so that's roughly like a $200 million bath that they're taking at the moment. Not a good result for Warner Brothers. I think they're in trouble with some of this stuff and they really need to turn things around for themselves. So this is where things get really interesting. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse in its 4th weekend is at the top again. It's back at number 1. It says, overall, it's a chaotic weekend at the box office as Sony Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse returned to the number 1 spot with a mighty $19.3 million. So far, it's generated $316 million in North America and $560 million globally. So that is a huge result for a film that was budgeted at $100 million. So they're well in the green. They're doing really well with this film. It's really exciting for Spider-Man fans, for film fans in general, for Sony. It's a win-win for all of us, you know? We want movies to do well. We love them. We love going to see them. And so I'm excited how well Spider-Man is doing. So yeah, Elemental, it's a great film. It's one that I took my kids to. They really enjoyed it. My whole family enjoyed it. And I don't think it's like top tier Pixar, but it is a very good movie and a fun little time at the theater. And it is actually in 2nd place at the box office, which it pulled in $18.5 million, bringing its domestic total to $65 million and global total to $121 million, dropping only 37% from the prior weekend. So that's pretty good of a drop for them. But the problem is that they started off at such a low number. I think it was like 27 million. And this movie was budgeted at 200 million as well. So double the budget of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, roughly the same as The Flash. Both The Flash and Elemental flopping pretty hard, but Elemental seems to be holding its own a little bit better than The Flash is, at least. But still, I think that's going to be a loss for Disney and Pixar on that one, which is too bad because it is a fun movie. I think that during the pandemic, people were taught Pixar are, you know, streaming movies. They just dumped them on Disney Plus. Luca, Turning Red, Soul, all of those got dumped on to Disney Plus, and I think that kind of has hurt their image a little bit. So they've got some rebuilding to do for sure. So Jennifer Lawrence coming in with a raunchy comedy. No Hard Feelings opened in 4th place with $15 million. It's not a bad result for a contemporary theatrical comedy, but analysts were expecting more from the $45 million budgeted Sony movie that stars one of the biggest names in Hollywood with Jennifer Lawrence. Earlier this year, Universal's wild rated R Cocaine Bear managed to collect $23.2 million in its opening weekend without the promise of household names on the marquee. So yeah, it did like 8 million less than Cocaine Bear. That's not good. And I think one of the problems is how crowded everything is right now. The theaters are very crowded with a lot of other films, and people are seeing a lot of different things right now. So I've just listed off multiple movies. I didn't go see No Hard Feelings this weekend because I really wanted to see Asteroid City. I'm probably in the minority with that. A lot of people, it looks like, went to go see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, but yeah, not bad for No Hard Feelings, but again, it's a $45 million budget, so they've got a little bit of work to do. I think another thing going on here is that audiences are showing that they are being more selective about the films that they're choosing to go see and spend their hard-earned money on. Everything's more and more expensive right now, and I think that's an area that's easy to pull back on. Okay, so finally, we get to Wes Anderson's Asteroid City, and it scored $9 million at the box office. That's a career high for Wes Anderson, the filmmaker of art house favorites like The Royal Tenenbaums and The Grand Budapest Hotel. By comparison, his latest feature, 2021's The French Dispatch, brought in $2.5 million. So that was a pandemic era film. It's a weird comparison. It might have done better if it had seen like a bigger theatrical release and not been during the pandemic kind of thing. But yeah, 9 million. You may be hearing some of these other numbers and be like, 9 million, that's low. But for this director, it's his highest that he has ever grossed for a theatrical release, which is cool because this movie is incredible. It's one of my top 3 films of the year, and it's just beautifully shot. It's done in Kodak film, and he just has a weird, quirky, interesting way of doing movies, of filmmaking, of mirror shots, of camera work, all of it. And he's just got his very own unique style and voice that I really appreciate. And it's only sitting behind Sisu for me and John Wick Chapter 4. Those are my top 3. So John Wick Chapter 4, then Sisu, then Asteroid City. And I just basically go by like what made me feel the most when I'm watching a film. It's like, what's my level of enjoyment? Did it make me feel things emotionally? What themes were there? How entertained was I? All of those things go into kind of how I think about films and how I rate them for myself. If you want to check out my review for Asteroid City, you can find it here. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.